Welcome to this week's Resilience by Default Deep Dive podcast. Operational resilience is not a standalone function. It's a holistic, culture-driven, service-focused that breaks traditional organizational silos. And honestly, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at why this holistic, culture-driven focus is absolutely essential for modern business survival. As we unpack the insights from Terry's article, it becomes incredibly clear that we've reached a major tipping point. Threats like ransomware, they can no longer just be shoved into an IT silo and ignored by the board. To survive today, organizations literally have to adopt a resilience-first mindset from the top down. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with why a systemic resilience failure is so critical, then jump into the resilience by default mindset. After that, we'll break down the methodology into 3 phases: proactive defense, active containment, and recovery. Finally, we'll wrap up with how you can master this entire operating cycle. All right, let's dive straight into Section 1, a systemic resilience failure, beyond a cyber incident. You know, we really need to draw a line in the sand between the old way of thinking and the harsh reality. In the past, ransomware was treated like a disruptive little cyber nuisance. The IT team would scramble, restore some backups, and business just carried on relatively uninterrupted. But reality has shifted entirely. The insights in Terry's article show us that modern ransomware is a full-on, full-spectrum attack. It's not just going after your data, it's targeting your organization's safety, soundness, and market integrity. Because our digital world is so incredibly intertwined now, an attack threatens consumer protection and literally entire national ecosystems. It is, by definition, a systemic resilience failure. The mechanics of these attacks? Absolutely catastrophic. We aren't talking about a lone hacker in a basement guessing passwords anymore. These groups exploit hyper-connected supply chains. They ruthlessly leverage your legacy technical debt, those aging, unpatched systems everyone's been meaning to upgrade, but never quite gets around to. They completely capitalize on weak, untested crisis decision pathways. Because when your leaders hesitate, the attackers just accelerate. And the predictable result of all this? You lose control. You lose your data, your systems, the public narrative, and ultimately your credibility. Terry's article makes it crystal clear. When operations grind to a halt and communications go dark, you aren't just having a cyber issue. You're experiencing a fundamental breakdown of the entire business. So how do we actually fix this? That brings us to Section 2, the resilience by default mindset, and introducing the framework. To make this massive mindset shift, we look directly at Downing's resilience wheel. Think of this framework as your antidote to panic. It replaces the sheer chaos of a ransomware attack with a structured, testable, and disciplined methodology. We're talking about 8 clear stages that flow logically from proactive prevention all the way through to post-incident learning. It's an entirely continuous loop. We refer to this entire wheel as the RROC. That's the Ransomware Resilience Operating Cycle. Now, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that this is a repeatable, testable, and deeply board-ready methodology. It literally takes cybersecurity, operational resilience, crisis governance, and regulatory alignment, and integrates the whole shebang into one single coherent framework. So for the C-suite folks tuning in, listen up. This means you are no longer just bolting on resilience as an afterthought. You're making it intentional. And more importantly, you're continuously evidencing it to regulators. Let's break down the cycle itself. Moving on to Section 3, proactive, detect, and detect. This is your front line of defense. The bedrock of this proactive layer is deterrence. Carrie's article points out a really hard truth here. Prevention is hands down the cheapest control available in this entire cycle. Every single pound you spend here saves you multiples down the line. Deterring means actively shrinking your attack surface through strict governance and impeccable security hygiene. Basically, if you make yourself a uniquely difficult and unattractive target, commercial ransomware gangs are probably going to look for easier prey elsewhere. But let's assume they do try. That's where you need the next capability, detect. This is your critical early warning layer. By leveraging deep telemetry and behavioral analytics, you can spot malicious activity way before it blows up into a full-blown event. Catching an intrusion in minutes instead of days, that's exactly what drastically reduces your blast radius. But what happens if an attacker does slip through? We move straight into Section 4, active, defend, declare, disconnect, the containment phase. This phase is all about rapid, dynamic action, and it kicks off with how you defend. Now, counterintuitively, this isn't about fighting the attacker head-to-head. Instead, it's about defense in depth, to buy yourself precious time. You leverage layered controls and network segmentation to slow the spread and shield your most important business services. And almost immediately, you have to move to declare. This is a massive moment where you trigger formal crises governance and regulatory notifications. At the exact same time, you execute the disconnect and preserve protocol. You have to be ruthless here. Isolate infected systems immediately to protect whatever clean environments you have left, while carefully preserving forensic evidence for the investigations that are absolutely going to follow. I actually want to pause and zoom in on declare for a second, because Terry's article makes it abundantly clear that this is where the rubber meets the road. Declaring isn't just shooting off a quick email saying, hey, something looks wrong. No, it is the formal, documented recognition of a material incident. This declaration activates your legal pathways, it brings in your insurers, and it initiates transparent engagement with your regulators. Making this declaration in a timely manner is a huge regulatory expectation. It's the exact moment where ambiguity ends and true executive accountability begins.
Once the immediate threat is contained, we transition into Section 5, Recovery. Deploy, discover, disseminate. Time to rebuild and evolve.
Recovery kicks off with deployment, and Terry's article stresses a really vital rule here. A controlled, evidence-based recovery is infinitely better than a rushed one. Rushing? That just leads straight to reinfection. You must execute a highly prioritized recovery, bringing your most critical business services back online first. Once things are stable, you enter the discover phase. This requires deep root cause and dependency forensic analysis to find out exactly how the attackers got in and which specific controls failed you. Finally, you disseminate. You take all those hard-won lessons, share them internally, present them to your board, and transparently offer them up to regulators. Because sharing this intelligence doesn't just fix your own organization, it actively uplifts sector-wide resilience for everyone. Let's bring it all together in our final section, Section 6, Master the Operating Cycle, Continuous Evidence and Learning. When we look at Downing's 8 Ds comprehensively, it really drives the whole framework home. This isn't just a checklist you complete and shove in a drawer. This cycle empowers you to transform absolute chaos into controlled action, evidence, and continuous learning. By mastering these 8 stages, from deter and detect, right on through to discover and disseminate, you aren't just reacting anymore. You have a structured, regulator-aligned blueprint to protect your critical services, your consumers, and honestly, the stability of the market itself. I want to leave you with a forward-looking, highly provocative thought drawn directly from Terry's article. True resilience is not just about surviving ransomware. It is about learning faster than the threat evolves. So ask yourself, are you doing that? Are you genuinely treating resilience as a continuous, testable cycle, or are you just waiting around to spin your wheels when the next crisis hits? Podcasts released every Tuesday on Spotify and YouTube. Like, subscribe, and repost. It helps us build a channel and focus on what's important to you.